Ambassador David Chen stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, surrounded by representatives from 12 alien civilizations. The chamber was massive, built to make visitors feel small. It worked. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. The walls glowed with soft blue light that hurt human eyes after too long. Chen had been summoning to this place with only 6 hours' notice. That alone told him everything he needed to know. The Vryn Concordat did not ask. They commanded. The Supreme Chancellor of Vryn, named Kellis, sat on a throne that floated 3 meters above the floor. His skin was pale green and his eyes were completely black. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. Ambassador Chen of Earth, Kellis said, "Your species has violated Concordat space law. You have established colonies in the forbidden sectors. These regions are reserved for future Concordat expansion. You were not given permission to enter them." Chen kept his face neutral. He had practiced this moment for weeks. "With respect, Chancellor, we were not aware that empty space required permission to enter. We found no markers, no warnings, and no prior claims filed with any galactic registry." A ripple of sound moved through the chamber. The aliens were not used to being challenged. "Ignorance is not an excuse," another voice said. This one belonged to a Therex representative, a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish made of crystal. "The Concordat has maintained these territories for over 5,000 of your years. Your expansion threatens the careful balance we have created." Chen pulled up a holographic display from his wrist unit. "Our records show that humanity filed colonization claims for these systems 20 years ago. We received no objections. We followed every protocol in the Galactic Commerce Guidelines." "The Commerce Guidelines," Kelly said, his voice dropping lower, "do not apply to restricted space. The Concordat maintains certain regions for purposes beyond your understanding. You will withdraw from all colonies beyond your home system. You have 1 standard year to comply." "And if we refuse?" Chen asked. The chamber went silent. Several aliens made sounds that their translators could not process. The Vryn Chancellor leaned forward on his floating throne. "Then we will remove you, peacefully if possible, by force if necessary. We are not monsters, Ambassador. We will allow your colonists time to evacuate. We will even provide transport ships if needed, but you will leave." Chen took a deep breath. He had hoped it would not come to this. "Chancellor Kellis, representatives of the Concordat, I must inform you that humanity cannot accept these terms. We have 3 million citizens living in those colonies. They are our people on worlds we claimed legally. We will not abandon them." "You do not understand your position," a new voice said. This belonged to a Kethran, a species that looked like an upright insect with too many arms. "The Concordat has maintained peace in this galaxy for 3,000 years. We have done this through strength and unity. You are 1 species. We are 12. You have perhaps 300 warships. We have over 40,000. This is not a negotiation. It is a notification." "Then let me notify you of something," Chen said. His heart was pounding, but his voice stayed steady. "Humanity does not respond well to threats. We do not abandon our people, and we do not surrender our freedom because someone claims they know better than us." "You are being foolish," Kelly said. "We do not wish to harm you, but you must understand that the Concordat has never been successfully challenged. Ever. We have technology your species will not develop for centuries. We have resources beyond your imagination. Why would you choose conflict over cooperation?" "Because cooperation requires respect," Chen answered. "And threatening to forcibly remove millions of our citizens is not respect. It is conquest dressed up in polite words." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens spoke over each other in dozens of languages. Kellis raised one hand and silence returned immediately. "You have 1 year," the Chancellor said. "Use it wisely. This audience is concluded." Chen was escorted out by security drones. As he walked through the massive doors, he activated his encrypted communicator. "This is Chen to Human Command. They rejected our position. Prepare for the worst." On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Sarah Vega sat in the war room deep beneath Geneva. She was a tall woman with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. When Chen's message came through, she closed her eyes for just a moment. "How long do we have?" asked General Park, the head of fleet operations. "A year officially," Vega said. "But I would not count on it. The Concordat will want to make an example. They will hit one of our colonies soon to show they are serious." "Which one?" Park asked. "New Providence," Vega said immediately. "It is our newest colony. Only 40,000 people. Far from Earth. They will think it will hurt us without making us too angry. What are our orders, Commander? Vega stood up and walked to the massive display screen that showed all of human space. Their colonies looked so small compared to Concordat territory, so vulnerable. Begin emergency protocols. Every colony needs to start building defenses. Every ship needs to be armed. Every citizen needs to be ready to evacuate if necessary. She paused, and activate the reserve fleet construction program. That program was designed for a worst-case scenario, Park said carefully. This is the worst-case scenario, General. The Concordat thinks we will back down because they have more ships and better weapons. They think war's about who has the biggest fleet. Vega turned to face her staff. They have never fought someone who refuses to lose. 3 weeks later, the Concordat fleet arrived at New Providence. There were 847 warships, massive vessels that dwarfed the human colony ships. They surrounded the planet like a metal cage. New Providence had 23 defensive ships. Captain Maria Rodriguez commanded the defense force. She was 32 years old and had never fired a shot in anger. Neither had any of her crew. The Concordat commander sent a message. Colony New Providence, you are in violation of Concordat law. Evacuate immediately. You have 6 hours. Rodriguez looked at her sensor officer. Can we evacuate everyone in 6 hours? No, Captain. Maybe half the population. The colony ships are not designed for rapid evacuation. Rodriguez nodded slowly. She opened a channel back to the Concordat fleet. This is Captain Rodriguez of the New Providence Defense Force. These are our homes. These are our people. We will not abandon them. Then you choose death, the Concordat commander replied. The battle lasted 40 minutes. The human ships fought hard, but they were completely outmatched. Concordat plasma weapons cut through human armor like paper. Energy shields deflected human missiles before they could even reach their targets. 21 human ships were destroyed. The final 2 ships, damaged and leaking atmosphere, made a desperate charge at the Concordat flagship. They were vaporized before they got within firing range. Then the Concordat fleet fired on the colony itself. Plasma beams struck the biodomes that protected the settlers from the harsh atmosphere. The domes shattered. 17,000 people died in the first strike. The rest died in the minutes that followed as the atmosphere escaped into space. The Concordat fleet left 4 hours later. They sent a message to Earth before they departed. Comply, or more colonies will share this fate. On Earth, Commander Vega watched the footage from New Providence. Every death was recorded. Every face was captured. When the video ended, she sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she opened a communications channel to every human colony, every ship, and every military installation. Her message was simple and clear. This is Commander Sarah Vega of Human Defense Command. As of this moment, humanity is at war. We did not choose this. We did not want this. But they have killed 17,000 of our people. They think this will make us afraid. They think this will make us surrender. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was ice cold. They are wrong. We will not surrender. We will not abandon our colonies. We will fight them with everything we have, and we will show them what happens when you make an enemy of humanity. Across human space, the message was received. On colonies and stations and ships, people began to prepare. They did not know if they could win, but they knew they would never stop trying. The war had begun. The Concordat Senate gathered 3 days after the destruction of New Providence. They expected to receive humanity's surrender. Instead, they received something they had not experienced in 3,000 years. A declaration of total war. Chancellor Kellis read the human message with growing confusion. This makes no sense. They must see they cannot win. Why would they choose to fight? Senator Threll, a Kethran with deep blue carapace, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Perhaps they do not understand the situation. They are a young species. They do not comprehend what war with the Concordat means. Then we will teach them, Kelly said. Admiral Krell, deploy the Second Fleet to human territory. Take their colony at Jericho Station. Show them we are serious. Admiral Krell was a Vryn military commander who had never fought in a real battle. None of them had. The Concordat's last war had ended before most of its current leaders were born. War was something they studied in history, not something they practiced. Krell took 400 ships to Jericho Station. The human colony had a small defense force, maybe 30 ships. It should have been simple. But when the Concordat fleet arrived, the human ships did not form up for a traditional battle. They scattered. They hid behind the station itself, using it for cover. They fired from unexpected angles and then ran before the Concordat could target them properly. "This is not how fleet combat works," Krell's tactical officer complained. "They should be forming battle lines. They should be facing us directly." "Then explain to them how battles are supposed to work," Krell said dryly. "In the meantime, destroy them." It took 6 hours. The human ships fought like angry insects, stinging and running, never staying still long enough to be pinned down. When they finally ran out of missiles and railgun ammunition, they made suicide runs at Concordat ships trying to ram them. The Concordat won, but they lost 22 ships. 22 ships against 30 human vessels that were clearly inferior. The ratios were all wrong. "They are insane," the tactical officer said. "They kept fighting even when they had no chance to win." Krell said nothing. He was thinking about the human captain who had broadcast a message before his final charge. "Tell Earth we didn't run. The Concordat took Jericho Station, but the colonists had already evacuated. The humans had known the attack was coming and had gotten everyone out. Krell's fleet found only empty buildings and booby traps that killed another 100 Concordat soldiers. This became the pattern. The Concordat would attack and the humans would fight back with shocking intensity. They never surrendered. They never asked for mercy. They fought until they were dead or until they could escape." Commander Vega watched the battles from Earth and nodded with grim satisfaction. "They are learning to fear us," she said. "We are losing every engagement," General Park pointed out. "We are losing battles but winning time," Vega corrected. "Every fight cost them ships and lives. They expected this to be easy. Now they know it will not be, and while they are busy chasing our fleet, we are building." Earth had transformed. Every factory that could be converted to military production had been. Civilian shipyards now built warships. Car factories built missiles. Electronics plants built targeting systems. Humanity was mobilizing its entire industrial capacity for war. "The Concordat has not fought a real war in 3,000 years, Vega explained to her staff. "They have forgotten what it means. Their ship production is slow because they build for quality and longevity. They design ships to last centuries. We are building ships to last until they destroy an enemy vessel. Then it does not matter if they fall apart. That is wasteful," an analyst said. "That is war," Vega replied. "You do not win by having the best ships. You win by having enough ships." The Concordat will learn this lesson the hard way. 6 months into the war, Admiral Krell met with the Senate to deliver his report. "The news was not good. We have taken 12 human colonies," Krell said, "but we have lost over 4,000 ships. The humans are inflicting casualty ratios we did not think possible. For every 3 human ships destroyed, we lose one of our own. That still favors us greatly," Senator Threll said. "We have more ships." "We had more ships," Krell corrected. "The humans are building replacements faster than we are. Our intelligence suggests they have increased their ship production by 500%. They are building warships in civilian yards using civilian workers. Their entire species is focused on this war." "This is madness," Chancellor Kellis said. "Do they not have families? Do they not have normal lives to live?" Krell thought about the human colonies he had captured. Empty. The civilians had been evacuated, but the military personnel had stayed to fight. They had turned entire stations into traps, willing to die just to take a few Concordat soldiers with them. "I do not think humans separate war from their normal lives," Krell said quietly. "I think they see this as their normal life now. They will fight until they win or until they are extinct. There is no middle option for them." The Senate fell silent. This was not how civilized species behaved. War was supposed to be controlled. It was supposed to have rules and limits. The humans seemed to have no limits at all. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" Kellis asked. "Total war," Krell said. "If we are going to fight humans, we must fight them the way they fight us. No more restraint. No more measured responses. We must hit Earth itself and force their surrender." "That would violate our own laws," a senator protested. "We do not attack homeworlds." "It is barbaric." "The humans do not care about our laws," Krell said. "They care about survival. If we want to end this war, we must make them fear us more than they fear losing." The Senate debated for 3 days. In the end, they agreed. The Concordat would assemble its largest fleet and strike at Earth itself. Surely, when faced with the destruction of their homeworld, the humans would finally surrender. They gathered 30,000 warships. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. More ships than had fought in the last 500 years combined. They would sweep aside any human resistance and force Earth to submit. Admiral Krell commanded the fleet personally. As they prepared to enter human space, he sent one final message to Earth. "This is Admiral Krell of the Vrin Concordat to Human Defense Command. We are coming to your homeworld with overwhelming force. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy. Continue to resist and we will do what is necessary to end this war. You have 24 hours to respond." 24 hours passed. There was no response from Earth. No communication at all. The planet had gone dark. Krell's sensor officers reported something strange. "Admiral, we are detecting massive power signatures throughout the Sol system. More than there should be. Much more." "What kind of signatures?" Krell asked. "Weapons," the officer said slowly. "Thousands of weapons platforms. They have built an entire defensive grid around their homeworld. How did they do this so quickly?" Krell stared at the sensor readouts. The humans had not been hiding. They had been building. For 6 months, while the Concordat chased their fleet around the colonies, Earth had been transforming its home system into a fortress. "This changes nothing," Krell said, trying to sound confident. "We still outnumber them greatly. Forward all ships. We will crush their defenses and end this war." As the Concordat fleet entered the Sol system, every human ship in existence moved to meet them. The entire human defense fleet, rebuilt and reinforced over 6 months of desperate construction, formed up between the Concordat and Earth. There were thousands of human ships, far more than the Concordat had believed possible. They hung in space in perfect formation, waiting. Then a single transmission came from Earth. It was Commander Vega's voice, calm and cold. "Since you chose war, let us show you how it is done." Admiral Krell felt something he had not experienced before. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. The Battle of Sol was about to begin, and the Concordat was about to learn what happened when you picked a fight with humanity. Admiral Krell had planned for a siege. He had expected to surround Earth, blockade the planet, and slowly starve the humans into surrender. It was the civilized way to end a war. The humans had different plans. The Concordat fleet entered the Sol system in perfect formation. Ships arranged by class and function, moving in coordinated waves. It was beautiful to watch. It was how military operations were supposed to look. Then the asteroid belt came alive. Thousands of human ships had been hiding among the rocks, their engines cold, their weapons powered down. The Concordat sensors had mistaken them for more asteroids. Now they powered up all at once and opened fire. "Ambush!" the tactical officer screamed. "Multiple contacts, all vectors." Krell watched in horror as his carefully organized vanguard dissolved into chaos. Human ships were firing from everywhere at once. They did not announce their positions. They did not issue challenges. They just killed. "Return fire," Krell ordered. "All ships, engage the enemy." But there was no clear enemy to engage. The human ships would fire a volley, then disappear back into the asteroid field. The Concordat ships tried to chase them, but that only broke their formations. And when a Concordat ship was alone, 3 or 4 human vessels would appear and destroy it. "They are using the terrain," the tactical officer said with disbelief. "They are hiding behind asteroids like they are ground soldiers taking cover. That is not how space combat works." Krell protested. "Someone should tell them that," his second-in-command muttered. The battle had been going for 2 hours, and the Concordat had not even reached Earth's orbital space yet. They had lost over 600 ships. The humans were fighting dirty, using every advantage they could find. Krell ordered his fleet to tighten formation and push through. They had to get past the asteroid belt. Once they reached clear space, the humans would have nowhere to hide. But the humans had planned for that too. As the Concordat fleet emerged from the asteroid belt, they found Earth's orbital defenses waiting for them. Massive weapons platforms hung in space, bristling with railguns and missile batteries. There were hundreds of them, all pointed at the Concordat fleet. "Where did they get the resources to build all this?" Krell demanded. The answer was obvious but terrible. Humans had stripped their own colonies for materials. They had dismantled entire stations and mining operations. They had poured every resource they had into defending their homeworld. The orbital platforms opened fire, but these were not normal weapons. The humans had spent 6 months studying every battle, analyzing every piece of Concordat technology they could recover. They had learned. The railgun rounds were different now. They pulsed with electromagnetic fields that disrupted Concordat shields. The missiles were designed to explode in specific patterns that exploited weak points in Concordate armor. They have adapted to our technology, the tactical officer said. Every weapon is optimized to fight us specifically. This was something the Concordate had never experienced. In their long history, they had always had superior technology. Enemies could not adapt because enemies did not survive long enough to learn, but humans learned fast. Every battle had been a lesson. Every destroyed ship had been studied. The humans had turned their defeats into education. Krell's fleet pushed forward, taking terrible losses. They had to. They were committed now. Retreat would mean disaster for morale. The Concordate had never retreated from anyone. Then the human defense fleet struck. The human ships had been waiting in orbit around Mars, letting the Concordate fleet exhaust itself against the defenses. Now they charged forward in a massive wave. There were thousands of them, far more than intelligence had predicted. But it was not the numbers that shocked Krell. It was the tactics. Human ships worked in groups, coordinating perfectly. They targeted Concordate command ships, taking out the vessels that controlled formations. They aimed for engines, stranding ships instead of destroying them, forcing other Concordate vessels to slow down for rescue operations. They used debris as weapons. When a Concordate ship exploded, human ships would maneuver their enemies into the blast radius. They fired missiles that did not explode immediately, but waited until they were surrounded by Concordate ships, maximizing damage. This is not civilized warfare, Krell's second-in-command said in horror. This is butchery. This is war, Krell said quietly. He was beginning to understand. The Concordate had not fought a real war in 3,000 years. They had forgotten what war actually meant. Humans had never forgotten. On their homeworld, they had fought each other for thousands of years. They had developed weapons, tactics, and strategies through countless conflicts. War was in their history, in their culture, in their very nature. The Concordate had tried to civilize war, to make it safe and controlled. Humans had perfected it, refined it, made it as efficient and deadly as possible. Admiral, we have lost contact with 17 capital ships. The communications officer reported. The second wave is requesting permission to withdraw. Denied, Krell said. We outnumber them. We have better shields, better weapons. We can win this. But winning was not about who had better technology. It was about who wanted it more. A human carrier group broke through the Concordate lines and charged directly at Krell's flagship. The Admiral ordered all weapons to fire. The human ships took terrible damage, but they kept coming. Why do they not break off? The tactical officer screamed. They are all going to die. 3 human destroyers rammed a Concordate battleship, destroying themselves but crippling the larger vessel. The remaining human ships used the confusion to get even closer to Krell's flagship. Krell opened a channel to the lead human ship. This is Admiral Krell of the Concordate. I offer you honorable surrender. You have fought well. There is no shame in recognizing you are beaten. The human captain appeared on screen. She was young, maybe 30 years old by their standards. Her uniform was torn and blood ran down the side of her face, but her eyes were completely focused. Admiral, she said calmly, I want you to remember something. You came to our home. You killed our people. And now you are learning what happens when you pick a fight with humans. You are going to die, Krell said, not as a threat but as a simple fact. All of you. For nothing. The human captain smiled. It was not a happy smile. We are not dying for nothing. We are dying so you will remember. So every species in the galaxy will remember. Do not attack humanity. Her ship exploded a moment later, taking 2 Concordate vessels with it. The battle raged for 16 hours. It was the longest, bloodiest engagement in modern galactic history. The Concordate kept expecting the humans to break, to run, to surrender. They never did. Human ships fought until they had no weapons left, then rammed enemy vessels. Human pilots whose ships were disabled would override safety protocols and overload their reactors, turning their vessels into bombs. Damaged human ships would charge into the thickest Concordate formations, drawing fire away from healthier vessels. The Concordate had superior weapons and shields, but the humans had something the Concordate had forgotten. They had the will to win at any cost. As the battle entered its 17th hour, Krell's fleet had been reduced by half. They had destroyed thousands of human ships, but more kept coming. Earth's shipyards were still producing vessels, Damaged ships were being repaired and sent back into battle within hours. "Admiral," his second-in-command said quietly, "we cannot win this. Even if we destroy every ship here, we will not have enough left to actually occupy Earth, and they will just build more ships and attack us again." Krell stared at the tactical display. For the first time in his long career, he considered something no Concordate commander had thought about in 3,000 years. "Retreat. Signal the fleet," he said. "All ships fall back to Rally Point Delta. We are withdrawing from the Sol system." The order was given. The Concordate fleet, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, turned and ran from Earth. As they fled, they left behind over 15,000 destroyed ships. The debris field around Earth would remain visible for centuries. The humans did not chase them. They could have. They had ships that were still operational, but they did not need to. They had already won. On Earth, Commander Vega watched the Concordate fleet retreat. She allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. Then she turned to her staff. "Get me casualty reports. Get repair crews working on damaged ships, and find out how many shipyards are still operational. This battle is over, but the war is not." "Commander," General Park said carefully, "should we not pursue? We could destroy the rest of their fleet." "No," Vega said. "Let them run. Let them tell their Senate what happened here. Let them explain how they came with 30,000 ships and left with half that number. Fear is a weapon too, General, and right now the Concordat is more afraid of us than we ever were of them." She was right. As the battered Concordat fleet limped back to their territory, one message was being transmitted through every ship. Humanity had defended its homeworld against impossible odds, and the Concordat, for the first time in 3,000 years, had been defeated in open battle. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The Concordat Senate met in emergency session 3 days after the Battle of Sol. The chamber that usually echoed with proud voices was silent. Admiral Krell stood before them, his uniform torn and burnt from the fighting. "Explain to us," Chancellor Kellis said slowly, "how we lost half our fleet to a species we believed was primitive." Krell had been preparing for this moment. He had practiced his report over and over, but now that he stood here, the words felt hollow. "We underestimated them," he said simply. "We thought superior technology would be enough. It was not. We have antimatter weapons," Senator Threll said. "We have energy shields that can withstand direct hits from asteroids. We have ships built by civilizations that mastered space travel, while humans were still living in caves. How did we lose?" Krell pulled up a tactical display. It showed the battle in painful detail, every moment of the 16-hour nightmare. "They do not fight the way we do," he explained. "When we engage in battle, we form lines. We announce our positions. We follow the established rules of military engagement. Humans do none of these things." He zoomed in on one section of the battle, a human destroyer group ambushing a Concordat cruiser. "Watch this. The human ships hide in the asteroid field. They power down everything. They wait. When our ship passes, they attack from behind. They target the engines first, crippling the ship. Then they destroy it while it cannot maneuver." "That is dishonorable," a senator said. "That is effective," Krell corrected. "Honor does not matter to humans in war. Only victory matters," he showed another clip. Human ships ramming Concordat vessels. "We designed our shields to stop energy weapons and missiles. Human ships simply ram us at high speed. The kinetic impact overloads our shields. Both ships are destroyed, but humans seem willing to trade one for one. Suicide tactics," Senator Threll said with disgust. "No civilized species would accept such losses." "Humans are not civilized," Krell said. "Not in the way we understand it. They have moral codes and laws, but in war they abandon everything except winning. I spoke to one of their captains before she died. She told me they were fighting so we would remember. So the galaxy would remember never to attack humanity." He paused, letting that sink in. "And I will remember, senators. Every commander who fought at Sol will remember. We came with 30,000 ships. We left with 15,000. We lost more ships in one battle than we have lost in the last 1,000 years combined." The Senate chamber remained silent. The numbers were devastating, but it was more than just numbers. It was the realization that everything they believed about warfare was wrong. "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" Chancellor Kellis asked. "We have 3 options," Krell said. "First, we can gather every remaining ship and attack Earth again. Perhaps with different tactics we could succeed. And the second option, Kellis asked. We negotiate peace on whatever terms humanity demands. Several senators made sounds of protest. Senator Threll's mandibles clicked angrily. Unacceptable. The Concordat has never surrendered. We would be seen as weak by every species in the galaxy. We already look weak, Krell said bluntly. We attacked a species we claimed was primitive and got defeated. Every civilization is watching us. They are waiting to see what we do next. You mentioned 3 options, Chancellor Kellis said. What is the third? Krell took a deep breath. We do nothing. We hold what we have taken and accept that we cannot take Earth. We maintain defensive positions and hope the humans are satisfied with driving us back. Before anyone could respond, an aide ran into the chamber. In 3,000 years, no one had ever interrupted a Senate session. The fact that this aide was running spoke to the urgency. Senators, the aide gasped, we are receiving reports from across our territory. Human ships have been detected in 17 different systems. Not fleets, small groups, but they are in our home systems. The Senate erupted. Multiple voices shouted at once. Kellis raised his hand for silence. Explain, he commanded. The aide pulled up a galaxy map. Red dots appeared throughout Concordat space. These are confirmed human ship sightings. They appeared 6 hours ago. They are not attacking. They are just there, observing. They are close to inhabited planets, military bases, industrial centers. How did they get so deep into our territory? Senator Threll demanded. Admiral Krell stared at the map. His face went pale. Stealth ships. They must have been mapping our space for months. While we were busy at Sol, they were learning where everything important is located. The implications were terrifying. If human ships could reach Concordat home systems without being detected, they could strike anywhere. The Concordat's numerical advantage meant nothing if humans could bypass their fleets and attack civilian populations directly. This is a message, Krell said quietly. They are showing us they can reach our homes just as we reached theirs. They are showing us they have the capability to do to us what we did to New Providence. They would not dare, Senator Threll said, but his voice lacked confidence. They have dared everything else, Krell replied. They fought 30,000 of our ships with maybe 8,000 of theirs. They turned their homeworld into a fortress in 6 months. They ram our ships with their own bodies. Why would they not dare this? A new message came through. It was being broadcast on all Concordat channels simultaneously. Commander Vega's face appeared on every screen in the Senate chamber. Leaders of the Concordat, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. You came to our home and killed 17,000 of our people. You thought we would surrender. You were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. We have fought you across human space. We have defended our colonies. We have driven your fleet from Earth. But we have also learned. We have learned your language. We have learned your systems. We have learned where you live. Another pause. Behind her tactical displays showed Concordat worlds. Their exact positions. Their defenses. Their populations. The ships you detected in your space are not there to attack. They are there to demonstrate a point. We can reach you. We can reach any of you. Your shields cannot stop us from getting close. Your fleets cannot protect every world at once. Senator Threll was shaking. This is terrorism. This is threatening civilian populations. This is deterrence, Krell said quietly. Just like we tried to do at New Providence. But they are doing it better, Commander Vega continued. We do not want more war. We have lost millions of our people. Our colonies are in ruins. Our economy is destroyed. But we will keep fighting until you agree to leave us alone. Or until we have destroyed every ship you have. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. The Senate sat in stunned silence. They had started this war to demonstrate their strength. To show that the Concordat could not be challenged. Instead, they had revealed their weaknesses. They had shown that peace had made them soft. That their technology could be countered. That their tactics were outdated. What do we do? A junior senator asked. Chancellor Kellis looked old suddenly. His green skin seemed pale. We negotiate, he said quietly. Admiral Krell, contact Human Command. Tell them we wish to discuss peace terms. That will be seen as weakness, Senator Threll protested. Continuing this war would be foolishness, Kellis replied. We cannot win. While we might eventually conquer Earth, we might kill every human in the galaxy. But at what cost? How many of our own people will die? And what happens when the other galactic powers see that we are vulnerable? He stood up, and every eye in the chamber focused on him. The Concordat has maintained peace for 3,000 years through strength, but we have forgotten that strength is not just about weapons. It is about will, about determination, about sacrifice. Humans have all of these things. We do not. Not anymore. So we just surrender? Senator Threll demanded. We acknowledge reality, Kellis said. We chose war with the wrong species. Now we must accept the consequences. Admiral Krell sent the message to Earth. Within an hour, he received a response. Commander Vega would meet him on neutral ground to discuss terms. As Krell prepared to leave, he thought about the human captain who had smiled at him before dying. She had said the galaxy would remember not to attack humanity. She was right. No one would forget. The Concordat had been the strongest power in the galaxy. They had challenged humanity and been bloodied for it. If the mighty Concordat could not defeat humans, who could? The answer, Krell suspected, was no one, and that changed everything. The peace conference took place on a neutral station orbiting a dead star. The location was chosen because no one had any claim to it. No history. No memories. Just empty space where two enemies could meet. Admiral Krell arrived with 20 ships. Commander Vega arrived with 5. The difference was not lost on anyone. They met in a conference room that was deliberately plain. No decorations. No symbols of power. Just a table and chairs and the weight of millions of dead between them. Krell sat down first. He looked tired. The Battle of Sol had aged him in ways that time alone could not explain. Vega sat across from him. She looked tired too, but her eyes were still sharp, still ready. I did not want this war, Krell said. It was not an apology, just a statement of fact. Neither did we, Vega replied. But you started it anyway. The Senate believed you would comply with our demands. That you would see reason. Reason, Vega repeated. The word sounded bitter in her mouth. You told us to abandon our colonies, to leave millions of our people homeless, to accept that your expansion was more important than our existence, and you called that reasonable. We offered to help you relocate, Krell said weakly. You offered to move us like furniture, like we were a problem to be managed instead of people with rights. Vega leaned forward. Admiral, let me be very clear. We did not fight you because we are violent. We fought you because you gave us no choice. You killed 17,000 of our people to make a point. You wanted us to be afraid, to submit. And now you want us to be afraid, Krell said. No, Vega said. I want you to understand. Understand that humanity will never again allow ourselves to be victims. We will fight anyone who tries to take our freedom. We will fight until we win or until we are extinct. There is no middle option. Krell was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Why are humans like this? The Concordat studied your history. You fight each other constantly. Wars over religion, resources, ideology, land. You have almost destroyed yourselves dozens of times. Why can you not simply choose peace? Vega smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We do choose peace, Admiral. We have governments and laws and trade agreements. We negotiate and compromise. But we also remember that peace only exists because someone is willing to defend it. You cannot have peace with wolves by being sheep. You have peace by being a bigger wolf. That is a dark philosophy, Krell said. That is reality, Vega corrected. Your Concordat had peace for 3,000 years. Why? Because you were strong and no one dared challenge you. But strength is not just about weapons and ships. It is about will. When we attacked you, you folded. You negotiated. You compromised. That is how you lost your edge. So you are saying we should have been more ruthless? Krell asked. I'm saying you forgot what war actually costs. You forgot that real enemies do not surrender just because you have more ships. They fight until they cannot fight anymore. We are still fighting because we can still fight. Krell nodded slowly. He understood now. The Concordat had become soft during their long peace. They had started a war expecting it to be like a training exercise, clean, controlled, with rules and limits. Humans had shown them what war really was. What are your terms? Krell asked. Vega pulled up a document. First, immediate recognition of all human territorial claims. Every colony we established before this war started is recognized as human sovereign territory. No disputes, no negotiations, Krell nodded. That was expected. Second, reparations for New Providence. 17,000 people died. We want compensation for their families and funding to rebuild the colony. How much? Krell asked. Vega named a figure. It was large, but not impossible. Krell made a note. Third, establishment of embassies. Formal diplomatic relations. We need channels of communication so this never happens again. Agreed, Krell said. Fourth, and this is not negotiable, Vega said, her voice hardening. A formal apology. The Concordat Senate must publicly acknowledge that this war was a mistake. That humanity was attacked without just cause. That you violated our sovereignty. Krell flinched. The Senate will never agree to that. It would mean admitting weakness. You are weak, Vega said bluntly. Everyone knows it now. We destroyed half your fleet. Your own allies are questioning their alliance with you. You can either admit your mistake with dignity, or you can refuse, and we will make sure every species in the galaxy knows you started a war you could not finish. That sounds like a threat, Krell said. That is a promise, Vega replied. Admiral, I am trying to give you a way out. A way to end this war and rebuild your reputation. Yes, you will have to admit you were wrong, but you can frame it as choosing peace over pride, as being wise enough to recognize when to stop fighting. Krell considered this. She was right. The alternative was worse. If the war continued, the Concordat would lose even more. Other species were already making quiet overtures to humanity. They saw opportunity in the Concordat's weakness. I will take your terms to the Senate, he said. I cannot promise they will accept. Then we will prepare for the next battle, Vega said simply. We have already proven we can defend our homes. The question is whether the Concordat can afford another defeat. The meeting ended. Krell returned to Concordat space with Vega's terms. The Senate debated for 5 days. In the end, pragmatism won over pride. They accepted every term. The formal peace signing happened 3 weeks later. It was broadcast across the galaxy. Chancellor Kellis stood before cameras and read the statement that had been prepared. The Concordat acknowledges that our actions toward humanity were unjust. We violated their sovereignty without cause. We initiated hostilities without attempting peaceful resolution. The deaths at New Providence were a tragedy that should never have occurred. We formally apologize to humanity and commit to peaceful coexistence going forward. The words cost him. Every senator who voted for them knew their careers were over. But they said them anyway because the alternative was unthinkable. Humanity accepted the apology. Commander Vega stood beside Chancellor Kellis and shook his hand for the cameras. It was a symbolic gesture, but symbols mattered. We did not want this war, Vega said in her own statement. We do not celebrate victory. Too many people on both sides have died, but we hope that this peace will last, that both our civilizations have learned from this tragedy. The war was over. 20 years passed. The galaxy changed. The Concordat was no longer the undisputed power. Their military was rebuilding, but slowly. Their allies were more independent now, less willing to simply follow Concordat leadership. Humanity became a major power almost overnight. Other species wanted to trade with them, to learn from them, to form alliances with them. The species that had defeated the Concordat was suddenly very popular. Human military academies attracted students from dozens of worlds. Young aliens who wanted to learn human tactics and strategies. The galaxy was rearming, preparing for a future that looked less certain than before. Commander Vega retired after the war. She went back to Earth and tried to live a quiet life. But people would not let her. They wanted to hear her story. They wanted to understand how humanity had won. One day, a journalist asked her if she regretted how the war had been fought, if she wished humanity had been less brutal, less willing to sacrifice everything for victory. Vega thought about the question carefully. She thought about the 17,000 people who died at New Providence, about the millions who died in the war that followed, about the young captain who smiled before ramming her ship into a Concordat battleship. We did not start this war, she said finally. We did not choose violence. But when the Concordat killed our people, when they threatened our freedom, we did what we had to do. We fought with everything we had. We held nothing back, because that is what war means. Total commitment, total sacrifice, total victory or total defeat. But was it worth it? The journalist pressed. All those deaths? That is the wrong question, Vega said. The right question is, what would have happened if we had surrendered? If we had given up our colonies and accepted Concordat rule, they would have learned that humans could be pushed around, that we would accept injustice to avoid conflict. And then one day they would have pushed harder, demanded more, until there was nothing left of us except what they allowed us to have. She paused, looking out her window at the earth below. We fought so that every human could live free, so that no one could ever again tell us where we could or could not go. What we could or could not do, that was worth fighting for. That was worth dying for. The journalist published the interview. It was read across the galaxy, and every species that read it understood the message. Humanity was not the most advanced species. They were not the oldest or the wisest. But they were the ones you did not push, the ones you did not threaten, the ones you did not underestimate. On New Providence, the colony had been rebuilt. 40,000 new settlers lived there now. In the center of the main city stood a memorial. 17,000 names carved in black stone, and beneath the names one inscription that every visitor read. They chose war. We chose victory. Above the memorial, the flag of humanity flew in the artificial wind, and the people who walked past it every day remembered what those 17,000 deaths had bought them. Freedom, sovereignty, respect.